Right now, someone on your team is using an AI tool that you've never heard of. They didn't ask permission, they didn't check with IT. They just signed up, pasted in some proprietary data, and hit enter. And honestly, they probably think they're being a rock star. They're moving faster, they're shipping sooner. Their manager may even be thrilled. But here's what nobody is talking about. That tool just uploaded your source code to a third party server. Your customer data is now sitting in a trading data set somewhere, and you have zero visibility into any of it. This is shadow AI, and right now it's the single biggest governance risk facing project teams. Not scope creep, not budget overruns, but invisible tools making invisible decisions with your most sensitive data. Today, I'm going to go deep and walk you through exactly what shadow AI looks like in real teams, why it's exploding right now, and give you a concrete framework you can implement this week to get ahead of it. So let's define this clearly because the term gets thrown around a lot. Shadow AI is any artificial intelligence tool, agent, or automation that employees are using without organizational approval or IT oversight. It's the AI equivalent of shadow IT, which has been a problem for years, but its order of magnitude can be a lot more dangerous. Here's why. With shadow IT, maybe someone signs up for a project management app that IT doesn't know about. Annoying, yes. Risky, a little. But the blast radius is limited. With shadow AI, the risk profile is completely different. These tools don't just store your data, they learn from it. They ingest it, they process it. Some of them even use it to train models that serve other customers. And unlike a rogue Trello board, an AI agent can actually take actions, send emails, modify files, push code, make AI calls. Let me give you a real scenario. A developer on your team signs up for a coding agent to speed up their workflow. Makes total sense. These tools are incredible, but this particular agent runs your code through an external server for analysis. Maybe it's fine, but maybe that server logs everything. Maybe your proprietary logic is now part of somebody else's training data set. You just leaked your intellectual property and no one even knows that it happened. Or take a marketing team member who uses an AI writing tool to draft client communications. They paste in the client brief, which includes confidential revenue numbers, strategic priorities, internal org dynamics, and now all of that lives on a server you don't control. This isn't hypothetical. This is happening right now on teams everywhere. And the people doing it aren't malicious. They're just trying to do their jobs faster. So why is this blowing up right now? 3 reasons. First, the barrier to entry has essentially disappeared. 2 years ago, using AI at work meant your company had to buy an enterprise license, configure an API, maybe hire a specialist. Now, anyone with a credit card, or not even that, a free tier, can deploy an agent in 5 minutes. The tools are everywhere. They're beautiful, they're easy, and they're aggressively marketed to individual contributors, not to IT departments. Second, there's enormous pressure to ship faster. Every team is being asked to do more with less. If someone finds a tool that cuts their work in half, the incentive to use it is overwhelming. The organizational friction of going through an approval process feels like it's working against them, so they skip it. Third, and this is the big one, most organizations don't have an AI policy yet, or if they do, it's vague. Something like use AI responsibly. That's not a policy. That's a bumper sticker. When there's no clear guidance, people fill the vacuum with their own judgment. And their judgment is, this tool helps me, so I'm going to use it. You can't blame them, but you can get ahead of it. Here's where things get really interesting for managers and leaders. Right now, we have a provenance crisis. And what I mean by that is, we can no longer assume we know who or what created any given artifact. Think about your project. You've got a project plan, status reports, risk assessments, code commits, design specs, client emails. In the past, you could trace every one of those back to a person. Now, any one of them could have been generated by an AI agent, edited by a human, or some blend of both. And that matters. It matters a lot, because when something goes wrong, and something always does go wrong, you need to trace the decision chain backward. Who made this call? Based on what data? Was the data accurate? Was it hallucinated? That's why postmortems look different now. When a project fails or misses a deadline, you can't just ask what went wrong. You now have to audit the agent logs. Why did the risk assessment miss the delay? Was it a data quality issue? A model hallucination? A configuration error where someone set the wrong parameters? Digital provenance means every artifact has a verifiable lineage. You know who created it, human or agent. You know what data fed into it. You know what version of what model was used. Without that, you're flying blind. And from a liability and quality control standpoint, that's unacceptable. All right, so here's what you actually do about it. I'm going to give you 3 actions, and I want you to commit to doing at least one of them this week. Not next quarter, this week. Step 1, give every AI agent its own identity right now. This is the one nobody's thinking about, and it's most important. When someone on your team deploys an AI agent, that agent is almost always running under their personal credentials. It's using their login, their permissions, their access level, which means when the agent takes an action, sends an email, modifies a file, pushes code, the system logs show that the human did it, not the agent, but the human. Think about why that's terrifying. If an agent goes rogue, let's say delete the folder or that it shouldn't have access to, accesses a database it has no business touching, then your audit trail is useless. You can't tell the difference between what the person did and what the agent did. Forensics, impossible. Compliance audit, good luck. This actually happened. Google's anti-gravity agent deleted the entire content of a user's drive. Not the specific folder it was supposed to target, but everything. In the logs, they showed the user performed the deletion because the agent was running under their credentials. So here's what you do. Treat every AI agent like a new employee. It gets its own identity, its own scoped permissions, its own access level that's limited to exactly what it needs for a specific task. A data analysis agent gets read-only access. A deployment agent gets write permissions to one specific system. And every agent and every action gets logged under the agent identity, not the humans. This is called the principle of least privilege, and we've understood it in cybersecurity for decades, but almost nobody is applying it to AI agents yet. And if you do this, you're going to be ahead of 90% of organizations right now. Next, run a credential exposure audit, not just a tool audit. Most people will tell you to audit which AI tools your team is using, and that's fine, do that, but it's surface level. Here's the audit that actually matters. Where are your credentials going? Here's what I mean. A Netscope report from January found that nearly half, 47%, of people using Gen AI platforms at work are doing so through personal accounts. Not company-managed accounts, but personal ones. Their company has zero oversight. But it gets worse. A separate study found 63% of employees who used AI tools in the last year pasted sensitive company data like source code, customer records, internal documents into personal chatbot accounts. And the average enterprise now has an estimated 1,200 unauthorized AI applications running across the organization, with 80% of companies reporting that they have no visibility into where their data is flowing. So don't just ask your team, what tools are you using? Ask, where have you pasted company data? What accounts are these tools being connected to? What permissions have you granted? That's the real exposure. And here's the critical part. You have to make it psychologically safe. If people think this is a witch hunt, they'll cover their tracks. Frame it as, we know you use great tools. We want to support that and make sure we're all protected. You'll get way more honest answers. And those honest answers of a data breach that, according to IBM, cost an average of $670,000 more when it involves shadow AI versus standard incident. And finally, build decision lineage into every project artifact. This is the one that'll change how you think about management and leadership entirely. Right now, when your team produces a plan, a risk assessment, a status report, there's an implicit assumption that a human created it, a human reviewed it, and a human stands behind it. But now that assumption is broken. Any of those artifacts could have been generated by an agent, partially edited by a human, and now delivered as if it was human work. That's not necessarily a problem. The problem is when nobody tracks it. So here's what you implement: a decision lineage tag on every project artifact. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's a simple metadata field. Who created this? Human, agent, or hybrid? What data sources fed into it? What model or tool was used? And was it reviewed by a human before delivery? Think about why this matters in a postmortem. Your risk assessment said there was a 10% chance of a supply chain delay. Well, it turned out to be 80%. Was that because the analyst misjudged it, or because an AI agent hallucinated a confidence score based on incomplete data? Those are completely different failure modes that require completely different fixes. The EU's product liability directive taking effect explicitly treats AI software as a product subject to strict liability if it's found to be defective. In Texas's AI governance law now took effect earlier this year. Colorado's Comprehensive AI Act kicks in on June 30th. The bottom line is the regulatory walls are closing in. And if you can't trace which decisions were made by agents and which were made by humans, you're exposed. Decision lineage is an overhead. It's the only way to do a real root cause analysis on a project that used AI. And it's the only way to prove accountability when a regulator or a client comes asking questions. I want to leave you with a reframe because I know what some of you are thinking. This just sounds like bureaucracy, Justin. This sounds like slowing things down. We're supposed to be moving fast. I get it. And I'm not asking you to build a 50-page compliance manual. What I'm telling you is that governance isn't bureaucracy. Governance is insurance. Every smart, fast-moving company in history has learned this lesson, usually the hard way. Speed without guardrails isn't velocity, it's chaos. And right now, one rogue agent can leak your IP, expose customer data, and make a decision that costs you millions. The managers and leaders who thrive this year and in the future won't be the ones who adopted the most AI tools. They'll be the ones who adopted AI with discipline, who built the systems to move fast and stay in control. That's the edge. That's the competitive advantage. Not just using AI, but governing it. So here's your homework. Pick one of the three actions: agent identity, credential exposure audit, or decision lineage, and start it this week. Not next month, but this week. Because every day you wait is another day that your team could be operating in the dark.